Have you ever went to make a recipe and it ends up looking something like this? Well, let me tell you, it's not your fault. Sometimes it's as simple as the type of bakeware you're using. For instance, here is glassware. It is great for cooking casseroles. It heats up slowly and evenly and it cools down slowly, so that means your food stays warmer. However, the pitfalls is it has a temperature shock where it can shatter if you expose it to extreme temperatures, and also it tends to overcook on the outside and undercook on the middle parts. This is a stainless steel nonstick pan. It is absolutely wonderful for quick release and quick cleanup, but when it has this dark surface like this, it tends to brown a little too fast on the outside and not cook as evenly on the inside. So you have to keep that in mind. Dropping the temperature 25 degrees or 4 Celsius is a good way to combat that. Then we all have this, what I call an ugly pan. I use this to create steam in the oven, and after time it will create a mottling effect. It will have an uneven bake and it will affect the coloring slightly. It's still better than a dark pan, but it's not that much better. This one is an aluminum nonstick pan that has been sprayed or had put oil onto it. And oil or nonstick spray on a nonstick pan will glue like nothing else. It will stay there forever and it takes a lot of elbow grease to remove it. It's still a good pan, but if you're going to use nonstick pans, please try to avoid using oil or nonstick sprays on them. Aluminum foil is a great way to combat darker pans. It has a lot of reflection to it. There's usually a matte side and a shiny side. The shiny side will really help alleviate some of the problems. Then there's parchment paper. It can affect the baking a little bit because it's lighter, but the main purpose of this is to help with nonstick removal. I just like it for easy cleanup as well. Then we have the silicone mats. They're pretty nice. They will clean up pretty easy, but over time they tend to get greasy and they will attract hair a lot. So if you have pets, they're not ideal. Trust me on this one. That's why you don't see me use them a lot. The gold standard is the aluminum pan. They're cheap, they heat up fast, evenly, and they cool down quickly. So let's give a real life example of how these types of pans can affect the quality of a bake. We're going to use a nonstick, a glass, and an aluminum pan that doesn't have any nonstick surface on it. And we're going to bake some cookies at 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. We're going to use the exact same cookie recipe. We're going to use 1 ounce of cookie dough or 28 grams, and we're going to bake it totally for 10 minutes each on the middle rack. We're going to do that and then compare them all by color, shape, and then also temperature. And for good measure, I went ahead and used the nonstick that was aluminum base, and I'm going to put a piece of aluminum foil on there as well just to see what happens and if it affects the temperature at all. Let's look at the glassware first. This one was quite surprising to me. The outside was actually a little bit dry looking, but the inside was quite wet looking. And in fact, the temperature never got above 170 degrees Fahrenheit. That one was quite surprising to me. That's about 76.7 degrees Celsius. The one on aluminum foil did actually change the temperature a little bit. It was 204 and 95 degrees Celsius compared to 210 degrees Fahrenheit or about 98 degrees Celsius. That was actually a pretty significant change in temperature. I'm curious to see what they'll look like on the bottom. The stainless steel nonstick pan ended up getting to 199 degrees Fahrenheit or about 92.8 degrees Celsius. Finally, the aluminum pan that doesn't have any nonstick coating was ideal. It was 192 degrees Fahrenheit, 88.9 degrees Celsius. When you're making a cookie, you want to look between 190 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit or 88 to 93 degrees Celsius. We are now going to cool these and look at them after they're done. My favorite is the one baked on aluminum. It is nice golden brown on the outside. The inside is nice, soft, and chewy looking. It just looks ideal. The glass one is very wet. On the bottom it's very pale and it's actually very greasy feeling. On the inside it's very underdone. It's just not looking good at all. This really needs a lot more time and it's all over my hands greasy. The one that was on the steel pan is quite hard on the outside. It's kind of crumbly on the inside and it's a little overdone on the outside. Look at the comparison between the two. It's quite a significant amount. Finally, the one that was done on the nonstick aluminum, it's actually softer, but the bottom is actually surprisingly dark. It's the darkest of them all. I was actually surprised that the aluminum foil made quite a big difference. Let's look at the main three. Which one would you want to eat? This is the glass one. Again, it's very wet. I would not recommend this at all. I'd actually put it back in the oven. This one is the aluminum, and this one is the nonstick steel. You can combat the glass by baking it a little bit longer, and you can combat the nonstick steel by reducing that temperature 25 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius. But the aluminum is just perfect. It does exactly what you're expecting it to do. It gives you that nice golden texture, and it just looks really nice on the outside. So this is a little bit of why your cookie may not be working right, your cake, anything that you're making. I hope this was informative. This is jacksonsjob.com, and as always, happy baking.